Alright, what's going on, everybody? It's Easy 3 here back with a brand new video. It's been quite literally a year since our last video. As you can see before you, Selection Sunday has happened, and the 2023 March Madness bracket of 64 teams has been chosen and selected by the so-called experts of the NCAA. As we said, for the past 2 years, I've been doing these videos where I have recapped March Madness. I've given my thoughts about who made it, who didn't, and then through each day of the first round, second round, third round, Elite Eight, 16, Final Four championship, I've then given a recap of the games and the highlights of the games. Like upsets that happened or crazy performances, like rising stars in the tournament who are making their names, etc., etc. So we've been doing that for the past 2 years. Last year in New Orleans, I was actually able to attend the Final Four in New Orleans. It was probably one of the greatest, not greatest, but definitely one of the coolest cities I've ever been to. A very awesome experience, as well as the Final Four. It was my second Final Four. I also went to the 2017-18 Final Four in San Antonio. So that's been a very cool two experiences to experience March Madness. Apparently, it's my favorite time of the year. Better than Christmas. Hopefully, God doesn't smite for that. But it's my favorite time of the year because it's my favorite sporting event, entertainment event, etc. Period. There's nothing like March Madness. It is the pinnacle of sports. Better than FIFA, in my quite frank opinion. So, what we're going to be doing today is just looking at the bracket that we've been given by the NCAA, who made it, and what we think about it, or what I think about it, rather. So we'll do this by region. First, the South region with the number overall seed, which I think is Alabama, because as we know, Kansas got their ass beat by Texas in the Big 12 tournament. They were the number one overall seed, but now they have been overtaken by Alabama. I believe, honestly, with that big upset, I wouldn't be surprised if Purdue overtook them, but I'm not sure if they're the number two overall. As we know, Houston also lost. So Bama and Purdue are the only two number one seeds that won their conference championship. So let's go ahead and look in the South region with Bama themselves. They will be facing off against either Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, or SEAM, which is like Southeastern. I don't even know. A&M CC is actually the school that I come from. Been going there for quite some time now. This is our second year in the tournament. We've won our conference tournament 2 years in a row. Our new head coach is actually a former assistant at Purdue, which is pretty cool. That would be awesome if they would have played Purdue in the first round, but they didn't, which is okay. But he's done a great job at the school, and they have pretty much dominated the Southland Conference, I think is what it's called. I don't even know the conference name. They pretty much dominated the South Conference for the past 2 years, after not being very good for a little bit. We actually did have a player that went to the NBA in the G League, which I guess that kind of counts, maybe. I'm not too sure. But they'll be playing SEMO, who actually is a really good team. So that'll be a tough win. I think A&M CC is a lot better than last year, and so I think that they have a good chance of winning, because last year they actually played Texas Southern, who was down here, and they lost to Texas Southern, I think in the overtime, actually, or in the last couple of seconds of the game. So hopefully they'll be able to get that win, get their first NCAA March Madness win ever, and then probably get the shit kicked out of them by Alabama. But hey, they made it, right? All right, coming in, we've got Maryland and West Virginia. Maryland and West Virginia, 8 and 9 seed. These are always really hard to pick and choose. From what we've seen is that these two teams, quite frankly, do have a chance of being number one seed. I believe it was Wisconsin. They beat a one seed of Villanova in the second round. So always look out for those guys. You never know. Number 5 seed San Diego State University versus Charleston. I don't fucking know. A very small school. I think that they lost like 3-4 games. San Diego State has had its ups and downs. In the very beginning of the year, it looked like a pretty good team. Had its ups and downs. Hasn't really performed very well against top tier teams. So I honestly feel like they could lose here. Even if they do win on, I don't see them getting very far. I don't think they're very good enough to beat top tier teams. We got University of Virginia and Furman. Furman also a mid-major school, I believe. Virginia lost to Duke actually last night, in the ACC championship game. They got their ass beat. Let's be real. The refs kept it close, but it was a solid ass whipping. Virginia is a very, very good defensive team. They love a grinded out battle. But that also leaves them very vulnerable because they don't have a lot of firepower on offense. And so if a team is cooking, then they can't do nothing about it. As we know, Virginia is the first only 1 seed to ever lose to a 16 seed. So yeah. And the very next year they won a championship, which was pretty crazy to think about. All right, coming in at number 6, we've got Creighton and NC State. Now, Creighton was a team that I thought was going to be a lot better. I figured they would have swept through their conference and would have been a top 4, top 3 seed. I really think that they're a lot better than they play. They have a lot of firepower on offense. However, they are crazy excessive in their turnovers. I mean, it's so easy to turn them over. But they have a lot of firepower, so it's a push and pull. Either they live or they die by their shooting. If they're hot, they could win. They literally could win the championship. There's not a team in the world that they could not beat if they catch fire. We got number 3, Baylor versus UCSB. Now, UCSB was a Cinderella team from a couple years ago that won a couple games. And they're back at the 14th seed against number 3 Baylor, so don't count them out. There's a lot of people that think that they're even better than they used to be, so they could pull off another big Cinderella run here. So I'll be rooting for them for sure. Number 7, Missouri versus number 10, number Utah State. I personally am not a fan of Missouri this year. I think they're highly overrated. I was watching the SEC tournament game when they played Tennessee. They were the 4 seed. Tennessee was the 5 seed. That was one of the worst officiating games I've ever seen. I believe it was unbelievably clear bias towards Missouri. Therefore, I hope they lose in the first round because they do not deserve 7 seed, and they did not deserve to beat Tennessee. It was awful. I'm not even a Tennessee fan, but it was awful. Number 2, Arizona facing off the Ivy League school Princeton should be a absolute smack. Arizona is one of those teams that's very, very big. Just big bodies. Overall, just a very solid team. So yeah, let's go over to the Midwest region. Number 1, Houston got beat by Memphis in the conference tournament. I don't know, they're a pretty good team. They're a pretty solid team. There's a lot of people saying that Houston's too small. They don't play anybody throughout the year. But as we saw the past couple of years in March Madness, they beat top-tier teams when they get into March Madness. So they are a real threat, and they are a real good team. However, they've got Iowa and Auburn. Now, I believe Iowa is a very, very good team. They have a lot of firepower on offense. They have Keegan Murray or his younger brother. I forget which one is which. But he is an absolute juggernaut of an offensive player. They actually have some other pretty good players. And Iowa definitely could pull off the upset if they play to their potential. However, Iowa has a very low ceiling and a very high ceiling. So it's either you're going to get one or the other. And Auburn obviously has been a good team for a lot of years with their coach, Bryce Pearl. He's always had Auburn a very, very good team. So they're a good team too. This is a very, very tough matchup here. Number 5, Miami versus number 12, Drake. As I said, Miami lost to, I didn't ask this, but Miami lost to Duke in the semifinal of SEC tournament. That was also pretty much a blowout. That was only kept close by the refs. Again, versus number 12, Drake, who again is also one of those teams that only lost a couple games in this season. So they have not lost a lot. However, they're going to be playing a very, very good Miami team that has just very, very solid guard play. Miami's big man was hurt against Duke. So hopefully he'll be back. It always sucks to see a guy get hurt, even if it's a rival team. Hopefully he gets back. If he gets back, I really don't see Drake having a chance of beating Miami, even though 12 seeds are always very likely to beat 5 seeds. All right, we got Indiana as a 4 seed versus 13 seed Kent State. Now Indiana has proven itself as a real firepower and have beaten a lot of juggernaut teams. However, again, like Iowa, they have a low ceiling and they can play down to competition. Just keep that in mind, and they can make a run. Because they could definitely beat Houston, anyone in this bracket. They know how to beat teams. Iowa State versus either Mississippi State or Pittsburgh. Not too sure what to say here, quite frankly. I don't think Iowa State is deserving of a 6th seed, in my opinion. Not much to say there. Xavier, number 3, versus Kennesaw State. Not even sure what Kennesaw State is. Xavier, I think they lost in the final of their conference. They have a very good big man. He's white. I forget his name. I'm not too sure about that team. I haven't really watched them play much this year. A&M versus Penn State University. Now, A&M was 6-5 before conference play. They lost to teams like Colorado and like dog water teams. And then all of a sudden, the ACC, they turned around and they actually played in the SEC championship game versus Alabama, where they lost, but they were one of the best teams, had the second best record in the SEC, which came out of nowhere. So they are really highly, very, very good coach. And I guess they decided to play. Who knows what this team could do. What would be really cool here is we could see Texas and Texas A&M play. As I'm not sure how long it's been since their basketball teams have played. Probably been a while. As we know, Texas A&M and Texas is one of the greatest rivalries in college football, period. I think it's the best. I think it's better than Alabama and Auburn. I think it's better than Texas and Oklahoma. I think it's the best rivalry in college football, period. Because Alabama and Auburn gets toxic, and then you have a guy trying to poison a tree. That's not rivalry. That's breaking the law. Anyways, let's go on to the West region with the reigning national champions, Kansas, trying to regain the title and go for a repeat, which has not happened in a long time. Playing 16 Howard. And then we've got Arkansas and Illinois. Now, Arkansas is one of those teams I thought was going to be a very, very good team. I thought they could win the SEC this year, but they just did not have a good year. They had a lot of ups and downs. They have a very talented young team. They're kind of like Duke. Duke and Arkansas are very, very young teams. Now, Duke's team was able to transition throughout the year and learn and grow and progress to now being one of the best teams in the tournament. However, Arkansas did not seem to progress or develop as much as Duke did. They have a lot of young talent, but they just do not have that experience that's needed in late games and to perform well throughout the season. However, they are a good team, and we know this, and they can do a lot of damage. Versus Illinois. Again, another team that is probably shocked to find themselves in the 9th seed. They probably want to be a little bit higher. They're actually not a blue blood, but they have been known around college basketball for a long time, and then hit a big dry spell for a decade or so, and only recently have found success again. Number 5, St. Mary's versus 12 seed VCU. Now, St. Mary's actually beat Gonzaga once. Gonzaga had a down year in terms of their record. I think they had 5-7 losses. That's a down year. They normally only lose a couple games. But St. Mary's beat them. And then St. Mary's got their ass handed to them in the conference championship. So they'll play number 12 seed VCU. Now, St. Mary's is a very just solid team all around. They are predominantly white. I'm just going to say that. So they're a different basketball team. They're very slow. They pace you. They just do a lot of plays, and they just play old school basketball, which for many teams can be very challenging because you can't make them make mistakes. However, no star power. This probably will be a very popular upset against number 12 VCU. VCU, as we all know, was one of the old teams with Shaka Smart, actually, who then went to Texas, did not do very well, and now is in Marquette. VCU was that 11th that went to the Final Four. So, probably a very popular upset right there. Then we've got UConn, number 4 versus number 13, Iona. Iona, as we all know, Rick Pitino, who coached Louisville to the national championship and was fired for reading violations, I think should be strict because, whatever. Well, maybe not strict because he literally sent women to his recruits to have sex with them, so that was essentially being a hooker. Anyways, they'll be playing number 4, UConn, who were the number 1 team in the nation for a while, but had a bit of a rough spell in the conference in their conference play, lost a couple games. Still a 4th seed, though. That could be a very, very popular pick because Pitino is a very, very good coach. There is a lot of speculations that he could be moving to a bigger school like St. John's. Will be definitely targeting him. They have already said that publicly. So potential upset right there. And we've got number 6 seed TCU versus either ASU, Arizona State, or Nevada. Not much to say there. I don't really know much about Arizona State, or Nevada. Arizona State apparently has had sort of an awakening late in the season and has played very, very well. So I guess they're considered a hot team. TCU had a pretty good year in probably the best conference in the league, which was the Big 12 this year. So very, very good, decent team. Then we've got Gonzaga versus Grand Canyon University, I believe. So whatever. It's Gonzaga. Whatever. We've got Northwestern versus Boise State. Northwestern had some pretty good upsets throughout the season. Not too sure which ones or which. And then UCLA and UNCA, wherever the hell they're from. UCLA had a very surprising year. Very, very young team. Almost took over. They won when they won their conference tournament. I believe they won, didn't they? I think so. Yeah, they did. Amari Bailey's on that team. He actually used to play in high school with LeBron James' son, LeBron James Jr. Very good guard play. very high explosive offensive team. Coming into my favorite season, the East, because it's got Duke. But number 1 seed Purdue, with the reigning, probably going to be the player of the year, and Zach Edey. He's 7'4", whatever. Yeah, how you going to stop them? They got Texas Southern and an FDU. Much to say there.